For many racing fans, as they scroll through the names of Kentucky Derby winners in the 1800s, it's just a list of old, random horses that they know little about. However, when you delve into them a little bit deeper, you will discover some hidden gems of thoroughbred racing. And one of those gems is Leonatus. Today, less than 100 miles from where Leonatus won the 1883 Kentucky Derby, Turfway Park will host the Leonatus Stakes in Florence, Kentucky. But who was this colt that deserves the honor of a race named for him? Leonatus was bred by J. Henry Miller and born on his farm in 1880. He became the first of two Derby winners sired by Longfellow, and the name Leonatus means birth of a lion. Reaching the track for the first time in a September 1882 maiden stake at Churchill Downs, Leonatus finished second to the highly regarded Cardinal McCloskey. It would be a result that Leonatus dare not repeat. Off for the remainder of his 2-year-old year and purchased for $5,000 by George Morgan and Jack Chin, he returned to the races in the Blue Ribbon Stakes in Lexington. Trainer Raleigh Colston had him ready as he defeated his only two competitors by 10 lengths. In the lead-up to the Kentucky Derby, New York turfman Barry Wall attended a dinner in Lexington and was invited to Colonel Chin's Morgandale Stock Farm to view his horses. Wall fell in love with Leonatus and offered $10,000 for the colt. Chin refused, so Wall stormed off to the bookmakers and dropped that money instead on Leonatus' Kentucky Derby odds, dropping the odds from 8-1 to 6-1. He continued to wager on Leonatus after his return to New York, so much so that others took notice and started to wager on him too. Leonatus took so much action, he became the 2-1 favorite off of only 2 starts for the 1883 Kentucky Derby. Rain poured on Churchill Downs for 3 straight days, causing the Kentucky Derby to see its first ever postponement. The race was held on May 23, 1883, and the rain subsided to make a bright sunny day. But the track still remained heavy. Leonatus broke behind Drake Carter, but passed him within the opening quarter mile and never looked back from there. In front of 10,000 spectators, he ran the mile and a half of the Kentucky Derby in 2 minutes 43 seconds flat, winning the race by 3 lengths. After the Derby, Barry Wall refused to reveal how much money he had won on the race, stating he had money to spend. With his winnings, he threw a party for 30 couples and sent to New York for a special gift to give all the ladies in attendance. The gifts were bouquets of Madame Ferdinand Jamin roses, imported from France. First imported to the U.S. in Leonatus' birth year of 1880, they became known in the States as the American Beauty. The roses were a color never before seen in Kentucky, and they caught not just the attention of the ladies that received them, but also Colonel Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr., the founder of Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby. The very next year, Clark decided to make the rose the official flower of the Kentucky Derby, thus beginning the tradition of the Run for the Roses. Wall wasn't the only one that won big that day betting on Leonatus, as his own jockey, Billy Donahue, claimed to have bet his entire life savings on the horse, giving him some extra motivation to win. However, no one assumed that his life savings was much, as he was only 16 years old at the time. Another historic fact regarding the 1883 Kentucky Derby was that this was the first time we ever saw reference to the name Churchill Downs. An article in the Louisville Commercial about the 1883 Derby contained the first written reference to the track as Churchill Downs. Originally known as Jockey Club Park from its inception, the nickname would catch fire soon, but not become the official name of the racetrack until much later. 5 days after the Derby, Donahue was replaced by the legendary Isaac Murphy for the rest of Leonatus' career. The duo would win the Tobacco Stakes that day, and then 3 days later they won the Woodburn Stakes on May 31st. On June 9th, Leonatus won the Hindu Stakes. Remember that race, we'll come back to it in a bit. But 4 days after his Hindu Stakes win, he took the Ripple Stakes, and 2 days after that, Leonatus won the Himyar Stakes. Then shipped from Kentucky to Chicago, Leonatus on July 2nd won the Dearborn Stakes, July 4th won the Green Stakes, and the very next day won the mile-and-a-half Illinois Derby. An incredible record, 10 stakes victories in only 49 days. Leonatus was proving himself one of the all-time greats in the Midwestern region. He then shipped east to take on top horses on the coast, but was injured in training after losing his exercise rider and running loose for a mile-and-a-half. After not training for a few days, Isaac Murphy was brought in to keep the horse from losing his rider again. But once he returned to the track, he was moving fine until he suddenly stumbled, caught a shoe, and hit a foreleg. The small spot on his leg continued to swell, he had injured his tendon, and was retired. Leonatus' first 2 years at stud, he stood at Chin's farm, which he had renamed Leonatus Stock Farm, but was then sold to Clay and Woodford's Runnymede stud, where he spent the rest of his life until he passed away in 1898. He sired 1898 Suburban Handicap winner Tillo and 1898 American Derby winner Pink Coat. Pink Coat himself would then sire Pink Star, winner of the 1907 Kentucky Derby. So clearly, Leonatus was a fantastic horse, deserving of a stakes race. But why is the race at Turfway Park? Well, remember when I said earlier to remember that he won the Hindu Stakes? Well, that year in 1883, it was the very first running of the Hindu Stakes, held at Latonia Racetrack. Latonia Racetrack was on the Kentucky side of the river across from Cincinnati and was regarded as one of the United States' top racing sites. The Hindu Stakes was soon after renamed the Latonia Derby, and at a mile and a half it became the track's signature race. So popular, in fact, that in 1912 a motion picture was made called Winning the Latonia Derby, and featured silent film star King Baggett. Leonatus was the first winner of the signature race, and the first of 7 Kentucky Derby winners that won the Latonia Derby. The track struggled through the Great Depression, and ran its final card on July 29, 1939. In 1959, a new Latonia racetrack was built, this time in nearby Florence, Kentucky, roughly about 10 miles from the original site. In 1986, the new Latonia racetrack changed its name to Turfway Park. So that's the story as to why Leonatus has a stake race and why it is held at Turfway Park. Now the race serves as a prep for preps. The Leonatus acts as a prep race for the John Battaglia Memorial Stakes, which offers the winner 20 Kentucky Derby qualifying points. The race is then followed by the Jeff Ruby Stakes, which offers 100 Kentucky Derby qualifying points to the winner. Although the Leonatus offers no points itself, it has played relevance in recent Kentucky Derby history. In 2022, a chestnut longshot by the name of Rich Strike started his 3-year-old campaign by running 3rd in the Leonatus Stakes. He would go on to be 4th in the John Battaglia, 3rd in the Jeff Ruby, before shocking the world by winning the Kentucky Derby at odds of 80-1. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content, and check back for my coverage of the 2023 Leonatus Stakes.